Hi, everybody. I'm Pat from Boston. I'm an alcoholic. Sobriety date, January 14th, 2019. And yeah, that New Year's dance, I would have been a few weeks sober. And that was my first young people experience, not my last. And I've had a blast getting involved, going to them. If you're new and don't know what I'm talking about, you'll hear a little more about it as I continue. But my story's probably similar to a lot of yours. Started drinking when I was like 16. First time I got drunk was like a blackout. Almost killed myself because I'm also diabetic, and I'm sure you've heard diabetes and drinking don't mix very well. And I knew that I still was a teenager and wanted to experiment and be cool like everyone else. My doctor helped me, though, learn how to handle it. So there was never anything serious besides vicious hangovers and getting to the point where I couldn't eat the next day and having to go to the hospital for that. Alcohol never directly sent me to the hospital. What am I saying? No, that's a lie. I've been hospitalized for being too drunk a few times. It ended either getting sectioned, either for my drinking or for the fact people were telling me you were drinking enough to kill yourself. Does that bother you? And my answer was always towards the end, doesn't bother me. If it happens, it happens. So psych ward stays became another part of my story. But I was born in 1991. I'm 28 years old. Come from an Irish Catholic family. Both my parents are off the boat. Um, Parents divorced when I was like 6 or 7. So like instability, if it was a word, I'm using it, is something I was pretty comfortable with and very common in my house. My parents never agreed. They always fought. The kids were always used as pawns in their little games, and we were the reason one parent did one thing. Stayed with my mom, who also suffers from this addiction stuff, but doesn't admit it. It has caused her problems and us problems growing up, which I didn't know. Growing up, I always thought it was she was sick or had to do with her other illnesses because she has had cancer in the past. And complications from that is what we were told, because you can't tell a kid like your mother's drinking. We wouldn't have understood it. So growing up, I always felt kind of out of place. I was the only diabetic around, so I always felt like a little off. The first time I felt like I was a part of normal people was when I went to camp. It was Jocelyn Clinic Diabetes Camp. If anybody knows any children with diabetes, I highly recommend that camp. It was the best parts of my summer growing up. Later on, I never really had a clique. In high school, I bounced around until I picked up a skateboard. I'd hang out with the skate kids, but I'd always still hang out with the jocks, the nerds, typical all of the above. I was pretty cool with. I get along with anybody. I'm a real friendly, sociable person, but man, once I found out like what alcohol does and everybody else was doing it, it became what I wanted to do every weekend. So in high school, being 16 and working with someone who would buy me liquor whenever I wanted, I became pretty damn popular. and got invited to all the older classes parties, started doing parties with my class. And I thought I drank like everyone else. I'd always end up being the drunkest at the party. I'd always end up being somebody's problem. Everyone ended up having to be my babysitter. Luckily, I drank with friends who knew about the diabetes part, so I don't want to say I was safe, but I covered my tracks. I was responsible in that sense. A few times they've had to fix me up to get me home. And man, uh, there was some sketchy situations I'm glad didn't end worse than they did. After high school, I didn't go to college. I could have. I got into 7 out of 14. I had options, but I said I stayed home because my mother was sick and I had to take care of her, which isn't a lie. My mother at the time was drinking NyQuil every night and passing out and never really being a mother. So we had to learn how to take care of ourselves, feed ourselves. I remember I was 14 and I asked my mother for a ride, and on the way she hit 2 parked cars, backed up, hit the house, said it was because she was tired. Found out later she was drunk. Next time I asked for a ride, she said, take the car. So I ended up driving without a license at age 14 to school, to wherever we needed to go. Looking back on it, it's crazy. Like, I was just up to no good. Drinking led to more problems, more after high school. Like, kids went to college, I'd see them sometimes. I kept a job, so I wasn't an alcoholic. You're not an alcoholic if you can keep a job. And growing up, I knew all about what alcoholism was, but I never knew about recovery. So years after high school, drinking with the friends, friends are getting fed up with my drinking. Now I'm drinking alone. Cops are getting involved. And when I'm drinking alone, it's not like casual. I go from sober to drunk to blackout as quickly as I can. It's not like I ever want to, but that's the way it happens. Like, I'll drink and drink and drink till I physically can't anymore and roll the dice where I'm going to wake up. Luckily, it hasn't killed me, but towards the end, I was ready to die. I don't have a lot of drugs in my story, but towards the end, I was blacking out and just finding medications that were mine or my mother's and just drinking them. And it led to the scariest moment of my life. I remember blacking out, waking up in her bathroom like a lightning bolt struck me, and I couldn't see. Like, I could see, but everything didn't make sense. My peripherals were not there. My depth perception, I could not fill a glass of water in the sink. And the next day, I remember watching like my brain from above reconfigure itself. And to me, that was a sign to either fucking fix this or you're gonna die. Or like that night, I swear I died and came back to life and was given another chance. I can't prove it, but somebody greater than myself helped me stick through the night. And the next day, I had my sister drive me to the hospital. My sister and I are close. I have one sibling who's stressed out more than I can imagine over my idiosyncrasies with drinking. She worries, rightfully so. But I just cried the whole time I was there because, again, they were saying, "You're drinking to kill yourself. Do you understand that?" I told them, "Yeah, if it happens, it happens. I don't know what I'm living for." At that point, I was couch surfing, sleeping on my mother's couch illegally because she's not supposed to have visitors. All my friends have basically let me go because it was the best option. I had no money. I had no job. I had no car, totaled that. DUI. Drinking and driving was something I used to do daily. And looking back on it, I'm just really happy no one got hurt. I deserve the outcome of it all. I'm now 3 years without a license. Bought a car, totaled it 2 months later. Still on probation because what I like to do is self sabotage anything. I've been on probation for 3 years after a 1 year sentence. It's led me to jail. That didn't keep me sober. Every time I've gotten in trouble with the law, it started with a drink. Every time I tell myself I'm not going to drink again, but a part of me just could not stop. The last time I had a drink was that night at my mother's house. Blacked out and went to the hospital. They ended up putting me in the psych ward again. And when I was in the psych ward, I told them I'm not leaving unless you guys find a place for me. And my caseworker actually found a program. It was a 5 day a week IOP, but it also had a sober house where you were living at. I've lived at that sober house for 3 months, graduated that program, and AA sounds like every other story, but AA helped save my life. The house I moved into as a step house required me to get a sponsor. I was going to AA prior to my last relapse, but it was different this time. Like they say, you have a spiritual experience, which I didn't understand until the night of my last drink and the morning after. Like, I swear it was like some aliens were involved, or like I was putting my brain back together. I thought I broke my brain with all the pills I took. There was no way I was coming back from it. I was praying that I would. Not sure if I made a promise that I wouldn't drink anymore, but hoped for the best and let it go, gave it to someone else. Um, so I got sober, started the program, graduated the program, got involved in AA, and just said yes to everything. So I'd go to meetings. They'd say, "Hey, this is happening. You want to go?" I don't know if I wanted to go, but I said, "Yeah, yes." So Eldon, that sober dance, don't can't say it was the greatest time for me. I'm not good at dancing, and doing it sober was something I've never really done. So it was a little uncomfortable. Speaking right now for me is uncomfortable. I have not spoken in front of people in a long time. But luckily, I get to just look at myself on my phone, so I'm not intimidated by looks coming back at me. Um, I got a sponsor. My sponsor, it's a funny story. I didn't ask him to be my sponsor. It was sort of I was match made with an older fella that saw me at a meeting, knew I was new. A few meetings later, said, "Oh, do you have a sponsor?" "Oh, my sponsee is sponsoring people." And since then, we've been doing step work. I've remained sober while working on my fourth step. I can't say I've been working on it. I'm on my fourth step. It's been at least 10 months. I don't think steps are meant to be rushed. I'm also self admittedly lazy when it comes to homework and doing things I'm supposed to do on time. I procrastinate like it's nobody's business. So I'm still working on that, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing was connecting with the higher power. Like I threw every hope and wish of mine out the window and told someone else, guide me. I can't guide myself. Just throw people, places, and things in front of me and just let me be able to handle it. Grant me patience and strength, and the rest is out of my control. That's life. I've worked 3 jobs while being sober. One, I lost my own, I screwed it up. The second and third, other issues occurred. Life happens. I'm still employed, but thanks to COVID-19, I'm not. So I've met a lot of cool people in AA. Like, I don't, all my friends I'd say right now are sober. There's a select few of like the kids in the neighborhood that I grew up with that I still stay in contact with, and they're happy I'm sober. And I have no shame in it. Like, people will ask me all the time, like, do you drink? It's come up. I skateboard. If you can't tell, like my background is just all posters of skate shit. So go to the skate park. There's kids drinking. Yo, you want a beer? No, I'm good. Am I tempted? Not really. Sometimes, but then I'll just think of what's going to happen, what's at risk. I like myself enough right now to not throw what I have down the drain. And that took a lot of work. Yes, AA, but also therapy. My mental health, I suffer from depression. That's been an ongoing issue from before I started drinking. And it was something I did not address while I was drinking because drinking, I thought, solved it. And if anyone can agree or if anyone can relate, knows that that is just a dirty cycle that spirals down and down. And I dug myself out of that hole. And I'm proud of myself today for the first time in 28 years. I remember going to my first conference. A buddy of mine in AA that I went to high school with and used to party with, he's been sober 6 or 7 years, found out somehow that I was getting sober, probably because of all the cheesy stuff I put on Facebook nowadays, like, yes, I'm grateful for this, that, and the other, or blessed, hashtag sober. I'm not afraid to admit that I'm sober, and I don't think it's something you should hide. I want the world to know because drunk me is a shitty me, and a shitty me is no fun to be around. I never want the world to see that side of me again. So, an AA meeting was what I was told we were going to, but it was going to be a little different. Sure, like I said, yes. Yes to all things regarding AA. You want to go to a meeting? Yep. You want to little did I know it was a conference, and little did I know I was gonna have like the craziest, best, funnest sober weekend that I've had ever. Trying to find out what conference it was. Nah. Also, if you go to conferences, you get lanyards. I have a collection of lanyards now that I'm pretty proud of, and I can't wait to continue to grow them. But the meeting was awesome. The conference was awesome. Someone I knew from AA was there and offered me to spend the night in their room because I went not knowing what it was. I didn't have any plans to stay the weekend, but someone offered me a place to sleep. I stayed the weekend. I made a bunch of friends, and everybody was sober. I heard some of the best speakers I've ever heard. The dances were crazy. I actually danced. The first dance I went to sober, walked around awkward. The second dance, through my whatever, be awkward. Who cares? Because I used to care too much. Now I'm just doing me, and hopefully people enjoy it. I'm not going to be fake to you. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's hard. I have difficult days. I have good days, bad days, no days. I'll take a 36-hour nap. That's something I'm working on. Don't stop working on yourself because you are worth it. I'm telling you, and I want you to believe it because for the longest time, people were telling me, and I didn't believe it. Gone to a few more conferences, and through that, I met some people that invited me to join a bid. I'm like, what's a bid? But yep, I'll join that. So right now we're, I believe, looking for Greater Boston to host a conference. I forget which conference. I'm really good at forgetting stuff. um, I'm running low on time. Good. I can't believe I spoke for that long and didn't run out of things to say. I can talk forever about myself. Like lately, I've been telling myself, like, man, I really need an ego boost. But then I had to like simmer down and talk about stay humble. You're not the king of the world. I humble myself daily by doing little things without people knowing, like picking up after people. I'm still living in a sober house. Don't ever look down on living in a sober house. It's partially necessary because my probation tells me to, but regardless, like being on probation is so easy. They want me to go to AA and live in a sober house and have a job. And if I wasn't on probation, I would do all those things. Nobody is making me go to AA. These Zoom meetings, I'm not going to lie, I'm sick of them. I can't wait for AA to come back into live action. And Eldon mentioned Friday Night Young People. I don't know what's going on with that meeting. It is not on Zoom. I have not talked to any of the other members of that group. Who knows what's happening with that? But that was my favorite group. That's where I got sober. Every Friday I'd look forward to it because we'd go out, the meeting would be good, and then we'd go out to eat and hang out. Because if you're sober, you can hang out. I started falling back in love with my first love, which was skateboarding. When I was in seventh grade, I started, and it was an everyday thing for a very long time. And then drinking happened, and then skating stopped because the way I drink, I cannot skate. I don't want to. I just want to drink, period. So that's been awesome. I've met some friends in the program who skate. I've met people that I used to drink with who have told me, like, you're not the same person. And a few of them have realized themselves mm, they need they need some help themselves. I don't know if it was what they saw of a change in me, but they decided to make the change themselves, and I support that. Support whatever you do. That's not true. No. I support good ideas. I always am available to listen. I'll leave my number in the comments if anybody has any problems or any questions. I'll stick around after the meeting to answer what questions or comments you might have. I don't know how much time I have left, nor do I think I have much else to say. But I tried really hard to make this sound good. I hope somebody got something out of it. I don't know how many people I'm speaking in front of, and I'm afraid to look. But I'm happy today, tomorrow. Who knows what's going to happen, but I'm going to stay sober. All you got to do is stay sober today. Like, I can't tell you how unbelievable it is that I've been sober this long. From where I was to where I am today is incredible.